The best journalism includes balance, inclusion of all perspectives, and a clear-headed presentation of the facts. But not everyone agrees with that these days.
This is what we all got in the business to do, is that journalism is not a profession of being friends. Journalism is a profession of agitation.
These words came in response to the Philadelphia Inquirer. The paper recently published an opinion piece, Buildings Matter Too, opposing the looting and destruction of historic buildings during protests. 44 journalists, who were later backed by Jamel Hill, stood in opposition to the publication of this op-ed. The editor-in-chief was forced to apologize and resign.
The Philadelphia Inquirer published a headline in Tuesday's edition that was deeply offensive. "We should not have printed it. We're sorry and regret that we did. We also know that an apology on its own is not sufficient."
Philadelphia Inquirer editor-in-chief Stan Wisnowski, whose team won a Pulitzer Prize back in the day, is not the only one to recently resign. The new standards of journalism are forcing others out the door as well. For example, James Bennett, editor of the New York Times. He was forced out the door after staffers opposed his publication of an op-ed by U.S. Senator Tom Cotton that advised the use of the army against rioters.
Last week, we saw a significant breakdown in our editing processes, not the first we've experienced in recent years. Both of us concluded that James would not be able to lead the team through the next leg of change that is required.
So where does all of this lead? It's not only watch what you write, but also watch who you know, as you can no longer be associated with anyone who's not actively involved in supporting these protests.
Send texts to your relatives and loved ones telling them you will not be visiting them or answering phone calls until they take significant action in supporting Black lives, either through protest or financial contributions.
And now it's watch what you read. Stop studying books that might reinforce your prejudices.
Have you considered that if you identify as white and read only the work of white authors, you are in some ways listening to an extension of your own voice on repeat? While the details and depth of experience may differ, white voices have dominated what has been considered canon for eons. That means non-white readers have had to process stories and historical events through a white author's lens.
To some, these new standards of journalism, controlling thought and action, might come across as more dangerous than state censorship. But those promoting them make no apologies. Caleb Maupin, RT, New York.
Legal and media analyst Lionel believes that these events show that the public itself is now limiting free speech.
Since when is journalism determined by consensus? Since when do you poll your employees to make sure that not only do you have to gear your message to comport with the worldview of your subscribers, but then you have to tweak it and make sure it fits to what your employees feel? What we're seeing right now is we're seeing citizen vigilantism. It's not the thought police, but the thought vigilantes. People, individual citizens who want to limit opinion, either through newspapers, social media, name it. And again, my beloved Constitution has nothing to say about this, because this only limits the government from limiting it. And what's happening is the bigger problem. Americans are becoming so used to, so conditioned, so habituated to this kind of limitation of speech, and they don't notice it anymore. They say, well, maybe. So what if they want to limit it? That's the problem.